Hello and welcome to the Sports Rapport. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, your host for this program that's all about the world of sports in Vermont and beyond. Today on the show, we're focused on all things hockey with a spotlight on Quebec before the NHL playoffs begin. Jean Robillard, who spent more than 2 decades with the Montreal Canadiens communications department, is here to speak with us about the passionate fan base and the historical importance of hockey's most storied franchise. We've also got Montreal superfan Mark Davis with us for his thoughts on the current Habs squad. And for those of you listening at home but who can't see it, I'm representing for the Boston Bruins today by wearing my alternate Pooh Bears Bruins jersey, and I'll make sure to remind the Montreal contingent that the days of the Habs automatically beating the Bruins in a playoff series are hopefully in the past. I'm on the set today with our intern Busy Anderson, who's in today for producer Nathaniel Wilson, and we'll be helping with our all-Canadian high five. Hey, Busy, how you doing?
Hello, Vermont.
Yeah, it's great to be with you. And if you want to be with us on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments today, who is winning the Stanley Cup this season, do you think? So, Busy, before we get to the all-Canadian high five today, we've got some breaking Vermont sports news to talk about. This is big. The head coach of the UVM women's basketball team, Alyssa Kresge, is leaving the Catamounts to take a job with the University of Richmond as the co-sports editor for the UVM newspaper, the Vermont Cynic. You know that she has been so important to this program over the last few years. How significant is this that she's heading out?
Yeah, Coach Kresge will be missed. UVM women's basketball was in a 12-season conference championship game drought before she came to UVM, and that comes as a surprise to Catamount fans watching today. We've won 3 America East titles under Kresge in the last 4 years alone, so she's going to be missed when she goes to the University of Richmond.
Yeah, it's really amazing the turnaround that she helped spur here. So she's brought the program to a new higher profile. We're assuming then that as they look for a replacement for her, they may get some big names perhaps to come in to coach the Catamounts. It's not all doom and gloom, though, because there are some returning players coming back next year, right, for UVM?
Yeah, hopefully Catherine Gilwey coming back for a 6th year. The two, her and Coach Kresge, have spent 5 years together, so they'll miss each other. But Coach Kresge goes to the University of Richmond, the winningest coach with UVM, and they're no strangers to winning down there either. They've shown up in the last 3 March Madness tournaments, so she'll do well with the Spiders. Yeah,
I won't say go Spiders, but congratulations to Alyssa Kresge, and we thank her for all that she did for UVM women's basketball. One other note that is of interest to Vermont sports fans, that Keegan Bradley, who competed in the Masters tournament this year that just finished up, he made some history because they do something before the tournament begins that they call the Masters Par 3 contest, where they just take some players and they say, can you hit the green in 3 or less? Well, last year, Keegan Bradley, who was born, by the way, in Woodstock, Vermont, he did a hole-in-one on the 6th hole. And then this year, he holed-in-one again, this time on the 8th hole. So he becomes the first player in Masters history to go back-to-back hitting holes-in-one in consecutive Masters Par 3 contests. So congratulations to Keegan Bradley, who, by the way, finished 21st overall in the Masters tournament. And if you want to know more about what's happening in Vermont sports, you're in the right place. And it's time for the High Five, the segment where we count down 5 of the biggest stories from the last week in Vermont sports. But today, it's a special all-Canada version of the High Five, so pitter-patter, let's get at her. At number 5, last year's American League champion Toronto Blue Jays continue to struggle in the early going of the 2026 season. The team is still under 500, and they got some more bad news last week when their DH and top slugger George Springer suffered a toe fracture against the Minnesota Twins. Now, it's not yet known how much time Springer will miss, but Toronto already has 9 players on injured reserve, and they are in the basement of the AL East after an 8-2 loss to the Twins on Sunday.
At number 4, sticking with Canada's largest city, it's all eyes on Toronto's hockey prize. The city's beleaguered Maple Leafs will not make the playoffs this season, but the news could get even worse if they have to give up their first-round draft pick to the Boston Bruins. If the pick lands in the top 5 via lottery, Toronto keeps the selection, but if it's 6th or lower, they have to send it Boston's way, which is 2 games left for Toronto, including their tilt against Dallas tonight. Bruins fans will hope Toronto pulls through, which would increase the lottery chances for the Bruins to capture the pick.
At number 3 in Major League Soccer, the Western Conference leading Vancouver Whitecaps remain undefeated following a 2-0 win over New York City FC on Saturday. Matthias Laborda and Brian White each scored a goal for Vancouver, and the team with a record of 6-1-0 has 4 shutout wins on the season, en route to the best start in the club's history.
At number 2, the Montreal Victoire eked out a hard-fought 1-0 win over the Boston Fleet Saturday to take over their first place in the Professional Women's Hockey League. It was a battle between the top 2 teams in the league before a sold-out crowd at TD Garden in Boston. The game's only goal was scored by Montreal's Lena Youngblom, and the 2 rivals will skate against each other again on Friday, this time in Montreal.
And at number 1, Cole Caulfield becomes the first Montreal Canadien in more than 3 decades to score 50 goals in a single season. Caulfield reached the milestone last Thursday in a 2-1 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning at the Bell Center, making him the first Habs player to hit the 50-goal plateau since Stéphane Richer in 1990. Next up for Les Bleus Blancs en Rouge is an attempt to break another drought as the Habs try to become the first Canadian-based team to win a Stanley Cup since they did it themselves way back in 1993. The NHL playoffs start on Saturday. We've got more hockey talk with Jean Robillard and Mark Davis when we get back. Stay with us on the Sports Rapport. Welcome back to the Sports Rapport. I'm Mitch Wertley, delighted to be here in the studio with Jean Robillard and with Mark Davis. Jean, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about why you're here because you had a job that I have to say, if I was a Montreal Canadiens fan, would be a dream job. You were with the communications department with the Canadiens. Starting when? What year?
In 1996, the first full year of the Molson Center that became the Bell Center later on, but it was the first full year. It was really something.
So you just missed the old Montreal Forum.
Yeah, by a year, unfortunately. But I have to say, my dream when I was a kid was to play for the Montreal Canadiens, but the talent wasn't there. But I realized my dream of becoming a Montreal member at age 26, and I lived my passion for more than 2 decades. But luckily, my first ever game, I arrived 2.5 hours before the game, and I went to the alumni room, and there was one gentleman there looking at pictures on the wall. And when he turned around, it was Maurice Richard, the legend himself.
Maurice the Rocket Richard.
Yeah, he welcomed me. I said, "Hi, Mr. Richard. My name is Jean Robillard. I'm a new employee with the communications department, and I'm really happy to meet you." He says, "Likewise, young man." And he looked straight in my eyes, shook my hand, says, "Welcome with the Montreal Canadiens, and good luck." So I was
You jealous, Mark?
Yeah, first day.
It was
a
something.
lifetime experience.
It was really something.
I cherish that.
Oh, yeah, I cherish that moment since then. So, and unfortunately, I was working with the team when he passed away at the funeral. So I was working also for the funeral of Jean Béliveau also, and I was invited for Guy Lafleur, my hero. So at the funeral. So that was.
I mean, those names right there. That is just incredible.
The legend.
For folks who may not be quite as familiar with Montreal lore and the importance of some of the greatest players that ever skated for the team and for the league, Maurice Rocket Richard. I mean, there's an award named after him. Why is he such an important player in AHL history?
It was an era like English was really mainly there, and he was the first. One of the first French star of the team. And there was even a riot on March 1955 in the streets of Montreal because the president at the time, Clarence Campbell, suspended him for the rest of the season and the playoff. But when he came back the following year, they won 5 straight Stanley Cup. Just to say, he was the huge star of that it's still a record to this day. 5 Stanley Cup in a row. I don't think you're going to see that with the salary cap that we have nowadays. Yeah. I'll be surprised if you see that again.
I mean, the New York Islanders, I guess, came the closest in the 1980s. They won 4 Stanley Cups in a row, but 5 is still the record.
Yeah, that's it.
Unbelievable. I'm trying to get my brain wrapped around, you meeting that legend, like on your first day, basically. Talk about some of the other players that were with those teams from 96 until, the 20 or so years that you spent. Who were some players you got to know that particularly you had a relationship with, perhaps?
I had more relationship with the alumni because the main player after the game, I was in charge of many things, the press box, the 3 stars for the visiting team. I have beautiful moments there on that side of the ice, but I was also in charge of the room where the coach give his comments after the game. You see Martin Saint-Louis give his comment. I was in charge of that room. All the players were coming in front of me to leave the building before the coach came in, but they know me. They may not know my personal name, but they know my face. Many of them follow me on Instagram and Facebook with Attract the Very Best, the name, and also on TikTok with Les Glorieux Souvenirs. It's really fun to see them when they reach out to me and talk to me by chatting with me. So
when you talk about that incident in 1955 where fans basically kind of rioted in the streets over that decision, right? That speaks to something that I've always been fascinated by. As a Bruins fan, obviously, we can talk about the pain that your team has inflicted on mine. We'll get to some of that. But the passion that is displayed in the province of Quebec for this team in particular, can you talk a little bit about that and whether it is still existing today?
Oh, yeah. More than ever, especially and nowadays that they have a good team. I'm pretty sure they're going to win the 25th Stanley Cup within the next 3 years, seriously. I really do think so. Marty Saint-Louis did such a great job with the team, with Ken Hughes, the GM, and Jeff Gordon. I still remember the first day Jeff Gordon was with the Bruins. The first day that he came at the Bell Center on the press box, I still remember his face. He was nervous. He didn't know where to go. He asked me, where do I go? I says, follow that alley and the last private box. But still, they did such a great job. And you could see last year they made the playoff. It was a surprise. This year, I think they're going to win 1 or 2 rounds. But I think that as of next year, they're really going to be a contender. But you never know with them. 1986, they had 6 or 7 rookies in the team, and they won the cup. In 93, they were not the favorite. Jacques Demers says we're going to shock the hockey world this year at the beginning of the season, and they won the cup. You never know.
That's the year they beat Wayne Gretzky's LA Kings in 1993. Last time they ever won it.
The famous McSorley stick,
Mark Davis, you have been to the Bell Center recently.
Sure.
I know you're a super fan. You adopted the team now. That passion that Jean is talking about, that palpable sense of excitement, did you feel it at your recent games?
I try to explain this to people, and I hope you can help me out here.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And what I tell people is a regular season game in the Bell Center, a Saturday night in February, that atmosphere, Mitch, it's more electric than like any playoff game in any sport that I've been to. Wow. A playoff game in the Bell Center is just off the charts to be a part of. The history that you're speaking to, I've read a lot about it. I wasn't here for it, but it's palpable in the Bell Center. They do such a good job of recognizing their great players. You see the retired jerseys, you see the 24 banners. Help me understand this, because the energy there it's unlike anything I've encountered in North American sports. And why? What fuels that?
It's a religion. One of the nickname of the team is La Sainte Flanelle. So you have Les Glorieux because they won 24 Stanley Cup. But yes, it's really special, especially when they play against the Bruins. Sorry, Mitch, but it's really something in the building. I remember because I used to have to bring game notes to the visiting coach before the game. And when it was the Bruins and they saw me arrive with my logo of the Habs on my thing, they look at me and I went through, give the notes, and you saw it's really special, especially like you said on a Saturday night. They call that hockey night in Canada. In French, it's la soirée du hockey. It's really imprinted in people, and for the nowadays, the young kids, the one who has 30 or 40 years old, they were fed up of hearing us, the 1970s says, we are a great destiny, we won 24 cups, and now they will live it. I am pretty sure they're going to live it. They will win one in the recent year. I'm pretty positive of that. Yeah.
We're going to get to that in the next part of the show about how this year's team could go. But I still want to go back down memory lane, as painful as it is for me as a Bruins fan, because when Mark talked about the 24 championship banners, the only professional major sports team that has more is the New York Yankees. They have 27 in baseball. Yeah. The Montreal Canadiens really are the New York Yankees of hockey.
That's it.
Which is another reason that Boston sports fans can't stand them.
Celtics.
The Celtics in basketball, yes. To be fair, yes, that kind of dynasty.
Or the Patriots, NFL 6, like Pittsburgh. So
that's true. Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to have a total pity party for Boston sports fans here, but when it comes to the Bruins Canadiens relationship for a very long time, and you know this, the Bruins could not beat the Canadiens. They could not beat them in a playoff series. I think it took until 1988 for the Bruins to actually break that sort of drought. So my question to you is, the Red Sox-Yankees rivalry was often defined as the Yankees being like the older brother to the pesky little brother that the Red Sox fans were. Yeah. They didn't pay much attention to them. They kind of laughed them off because they always beat them. How did the Montreal franchise and fans view their Boston counterparts, especially for those years when they were always beating them?
You have to understand also that team in the 70s, up to the beginning of 1970 or 71, they had the exclusivity of the best two French players in the province.
So
they were protected. So the rest of the draft, you could get the one. So all the legends that you saw, it is something. For my 22 years, I saw 11 jersey retired. You're never going to see that. Many people ask me recently, would you change that period to work right now and win a cup? I said, no, because you're never going to see 11 jersey retired. I still remember each night, Dickie Moore, Yvan Cournoyer, Ken Dryden, the Big Three. For me, and it was something because when there was a night like that, the alumni came to the game because they wanted. It's like they say pass the torch in a way. So it's I still have goosebumps thinking of those nights. It was really something, and you. Sorry to tell you, Mitch, but it started that 70s era. Ken Dryden, the legend who passed away last year, he was a Boston Bruins. He was traded to Montreal on June 28, 1964, and he went to beat the Bruins later on and win the Cups. 6 Stanley Cup in 8 years. He played only 8 years.
Yeah.
So
that hurts. Thank you for reminding me that. The Bruins had Ken Dryden first.
To
put a little context here, and I want to get back to something else you just mentioned that's really, really important. Especially, Dryden won many Stanley Cups with the Habs, but it was the year 1971 in particular that really hurt Bruins fans because the Bruins had won the Stanley Cup the previous year in 1970. Of course, Bobby Orr had made a name for himself as the greatest young defenseman, I think the greatest player of all time. Bruins win the Stanley Cup. In 71, they're even better in the regular season. They tear through the league. They absolutely tear through the league. It looks like they're going to cruise to the next Stanley Cup. But Ken Dryden, in that series, I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, he was not even the starting goalie. He was inserted maybe a game or two in as a rookie. Yeah. And then he simply stole the series.
He's the only goalie who won the Connie Smythe for MVP's playoff before winning the Calder Trophy as a rookie the following year.
Oh, he's the only one. That's incredible.
It's something, and he was such a gentleman. I still remember the speech he made when his jersey was retired. It was really something. He was such a gentleman, and on my social media, I have a picture that I took that night. I asked him before leaving the rink, could I take a picture? He says, my pleasure. And on that, the centennial game, my most beautiful memory, December 4th, 2009, we play against the Bruins. We won that night. But after the game, I saw Mr. Dryden, and he said, with pleasure, and that picture is really something for me. It's,
I'm very glad to hear that he seemed like he was a really good guy.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about Ken Dryden in just a moment, but please go back and explain again for folks who do not know. In those years, the 50s, the 60s, you're saying that the Montreal Canadiens were able to draft Quebec-born players? They were protected?
They were able to protect the two players from the province. They were two for them, and then they changed the way it goes by 1970 or 71, if my memory is good. I think that the last one was not Guy Lafleur, but Régent Houle, I think, something like that.
Oh, wow.
But
that's a reason they had so many great French-born Quebec players.
1976-77 season of the Montreal Canadiens, they are dubbed as the best team of hockey ever played. They finished the season with only 8 losses, 60 victory, and 12 ties, 132 points, and you had 10 players with 50 points or more in that lineup. You're never gonna see that.
That's an embarrassment of Richards. Mark Davis, you were telling me some months ago about a book that you read that was written by Ken Dryden. Tell me a little bit about that again.
So this is incredibly unfair. Not only is he one of the greatest hockey players ever, Ken Dryden was an incredible writer and author. His best book is called The Game, which is a fairly boring title, but Mitch, it's the best sports book I've ever read. I mean, I think it's widely acclaimed as maybe the best sports book ever written. It's just a fantastic book in general, take away sports. It is sort of ostensibly about the Canadiens and what it was like to be on that team behind the scenes, and also just about the city of Montreal. But it taps into broader themes. Mitch, you and I are journalists, and I'm almost angry at someone for being that talented. His reporting instincts, he wasn't a reporter, but the way he observed, and he could really write so beautifully. I've recommended this book so many times to you and others.
And I will read it.
You got to read The Game. If you care about sports, if you care about hockey, just one of the best books you can pick up.
Jean, have you read that book?
I didn't read it. I wanted to read it, but it just reminded me of memory. For the funeral of the late Jean Béliveau, we were put in a bus to the church, and I was between Ken Dryden and Glenn Sater in the bus. And when we came out, Ken Dryden told me as we were going in church, he says, snowing in Montreal like it should be. You know, he had his way of saying things, poetic, and the way he said it, even Glenn Sater turned and we look at each other and we smiled, you know. So it was a beautiful memory. It was a real gentleman.
Glenn Sater, of course, was the former GM or head coach of the Edmonton Oilers?
The coach, and he became GM later on of the Rangers.
That's right.
At the time, he was with the Rangers. So.
What about the lovely tribute? I did catch some of this that the Montreal Canadiens gave for Ken Dryden this year. It was quite poignant, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something. Put his famous bleu blanc rouge helmet on the goal. Yeah. It was really. In my 22 years there, I saw so many beautiful nights like that because they had the touch. The people were behind that. I remember that when they closed the forum, they made on the ice a red carpet, and all the captain passed the torch. You know, those things. I still remember like if it was yesterday, and it's such a beautiful moment when you live them. And I was on the press box. On the press box, I had the best view, so it was really something to see this. So, yeah, a great gentleman.
And they honored a great gentleman, and also we've talked about him being a great author, great hockey player. Obviously, he was in politics as well, right?
Yeah, with the Liberal in Canada, and he was a lawyer by profession. He studied at Cornell. And that's where they saw him, and he was. You could see his demeanor, his aura. He was something. People, when he was passing in the alley of the Bell Center, were turning when they saw him because they knew he has a presence, he has a presence. Like Mr. Jean Béliveau, those two giants of the history of the Montreal Canadiens. When you think of Jean Béliveau, he won 17 of the 24 Stanley Cup of the history of the team.
That's astonishing.
10 as a player and 7 as a president.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
One of the great gentlemen of the game, too.
Yes.
Absolutely
Yeah.
respected by every player on the ice.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Ken Dryden hurting the Bruins. We've talked about the ways that the Bruins. I have to mention this memory. And this, I'm bringing up this story because it illustrates to me part of the reason, yes, I hate the Canadiens in that way that sports fans hate other franchises that hurt them, but I have such respect for the fan base. Here's why. In 1979, the Boston Bruins, one of my favorite iterations of the Bruins, they were a lunch pail, blue-collar team, not a lot of stars, save for one very skilled player named Rick Middleton, who in Game 7 of the semifinals of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Bruins are up in Montreal in the Forum, tie game. Middleton puts the Bruins ahead 4-3 against a Canadiens team that, as you said, is one of the greatest of all time. They were wildly picked to blow the Bruins out in that game. Gilles Gilbert, one of the great Bruins goalies of all time, underrated, kept the Bruins in that series up till that Game 7. Bruins take the lead 4-3. 2 minutes to go in the game. All they got to do is kill that off, and they're going to make one of the greatest upsets of all time. You know what happens next. The Bruins are called for an infamous too many men on the ice penalty, which leads to Guy Lafleur's goal, which gets it to overtime. Yvan Cournoyer, he wins it for Montreal. What I find astonishing, and if you've seen clips of this on YouTube or what have you, the moment that the Bruins have too many men on the ice, you see a bunch of people standing up and they're pointing. The fans are pointing at the ice because they see it before the refs do. That's how much they know their hockey. Am I right about this?
Yeah, that's it. They were the second referee before it happens in the NHL. They were really they were the 7 players on the ice. For when you live it, you had the chance to be there. I always said 3 things. You have to be there for 3 games. The first game of the season, because they present all the new faces, and you have hopes that you will win the cup this year. The first game of the playoff, you'll see the first game this week on the 18th or 19th. It's going to be really something. The first game at the Bell Center, and the last one, I never had the chance. The 7th game of the Stanley Cup final. You need, and it's also in basketball, NBA, and all the sports. Those 3 games are really important in this season, and especially in Montreal. Montreal, when it starts the playoff, they always think they will win the cup, no matter which year. I'm telling you, this year is not an exception. With everything that happened with Cole Caulfield with his 50th goal, with Suzuki 100 points. He's the first ever captain to do so. Could you imagine that? With the history of the team, he's the first captain who ever did that. So that was really something. So, of course,
I hope he appreciates that history, his place in history there. Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into whether or not these Canadiens are going to go off to glory this year, we are going to get into that. I want to ask you to play a little game with me here. So let's pick our all-time teams here. I'm going to pick my all-time Bruins team.
Okay.
All right, and you pick 5 players and a goalie that you would put on Montreal's side that you think can beat my all-time Bruins team.
Oh.
Now, I understand you've got an embarrassment of riches to pick from here.
Wow.
But you can take any era.
That's a good question.
And you can get from Mark if you want.
I want to be the impartial judge.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good idea, actually. You be the judge on this one. I've got my 5 in my head. If you want to go ahead and pick yours, you go right ahead.
The 5 players plus a goalie, you said, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Goalie is really something because with Ken Dryden, 6 Stanley Cup in 8 years, but Patrick Roy, what he did the last 2 Stanley Cup, he's a winner. In 2001, he was trailing against New Jersey and Martin Brodeur. They were same brother, maybe better than him, and he gave only 1 goal in 2 games to win the Stanley Cup for the Avalanche. So I think I will go with Patrick Roy, surprising as a goal.
I'm a little surprised too, but okay.
Defenseman, Larry Robinson. Maybe in 5 years, if you ask me the questions, I may put Lane Hudson there. But Larry Robinson, the nickname Big Bird, he was really something. Forward for me, Guy Lafleur, Maurice Richard, Jean Béliveau. I will put the four.
You got one other defenseman to pair with Robinson.
I think I will take Guy Lapointe, Serge Chavard, one of the big three. But I would have went with Henri Richard forward because he won 11 Stanley Cup. It's still a record to this day. He was the brother of Maurice, and he made a name for himself when Maurice retired in 1960. So, and he was one of my favorite in the alumni room. He was a gentleman too. So,
all right, so you got a bunch of inner circle Hall of Famers here, Mitch. Best of luck to you.
I do. I just want to. I know this is tough, but I'm still going to go for it. So I just want to make clear here. You got Patrick Roy on net.
Yeah.
You've got Larry Robinson paired with on defense. Guy Lapointe.
Yeah, because Lapointe was a scorer, but Savard was also such a monument on defense. So
yeah, but you can only pick one.
Okay,
I'm only giving you one.
Okay, I'll take Guy Lapointe.
Okay, and then your three forwards again.
Maurice Richard, Jean Bilvaux, Guy Lafleur.
Okay, all right. Okay, very good. That's good. Here's my team though that I'm putting up against you, and we're going to start with the greatest hockey player of all time. And come at me, Wayne Gretzky fans. Come at me, Bobby Orr, the best. We can get into why I think that another time. So Bobby Orr in defense, going to pair him with Zdeno Chara. Good luck getting around those two. And my forwards, this is a little controversial. I'm going to take Patrice Bergeron at center. I'm putting David Pastrnak on the wing with him. And then I'm going to go ahead and put Ken Hodge on the other wing.
No guys from the 70s?
Well, Hodge is from the 70s.
Yeah, okay.
And Orr, of course.
Orr, yeah.
In net, and this is where it gets tough because I think you've got us beat in net, but I'm going to go with one of my favorite Bruins goalies of all time. He never won a Stanley Cup as a starter, but Tuukka Rask, I really believe, is one of the greatest goalies. He's got the most wins of any Bruins goaltender of all time.
He was great.
That's my five. Who wins the game, Mark Davis?
You know, in my completely neutral, impartial opinion, Mitch, that's a really lovely squad you've assembled, and they lose 12-1 to his team.
Oh, I am not accepting that at all. If Mr. Orr were here, good heavens.
And for me, the greatest hockey player of all time, there's so many players, but in the midget Tropoli, I was involved for 23 years with that team. I created the Mario Lemieux trophy, and I have to say that Mario Lemieux was really something.
Would you say he's the best?
Oh, yeah. I think.
Really?
Yeah. For me, Guy Lafleur would be close, but Mario Lemieux had one thing that the others didn't have. The two things, the physics and the reach. And his IQ hockey was off the chart. He's one of the rare players who won 2 Stanley Cup in a row and won the MVP the same year. Gretzky never did that. He did one.
Oh, that's surprising to me. I would have thought that he did.
Yeah. So for me, and he made the difference. If you take out that player from the Pittsburgh Penguins in 91-92, they would have never won the cup. Never.
I think that's true.
But the others, if you had an injured players with the dynasty of the 70s of the Habs, you had other legend that could have, like Yvan Cournoyer, the captain, won 10 Stanley Cup.
It's just ridiculous.
It's really something, yeah.
I will briefly say the reason I say Orr is the best of all time, and I did not come up with this analogy, I forget who did, but I think this makes sense. If you put 5 Bobby Orrs on the ice and went up against 5 Wayne Gretzkys, with, let's say,
Mario Lemieux.
And that is weird. Here's the thing, though. Orr may not match quite the offensive capabilities of Gretzky and or Lemieux, but he's pretty great offensive player. Neither of those two can match his defensive prowess. So you get the best of both with Bobby Orr.
But honestly, I will tell you something. Serge Chavard of the Big Three says one day that Bobby Orr was the best player he ever saw play the game because he changed the game he was there as a defenseman. But for me, physically, Lemieux could have taken care of Bobby Orr and go with the puck, and like he did many times.
That is such an interesting take. I do think, let's not forget, he did have Jaromir Jagr to play with, also one of the the great players,
The second year, I don't think the first year was there. So,
okay.
he was a rookie. But I'm telling you, even if you would have take out Mario Lemieux, was over for them.
Yeah,
for sure.
Lemieux was amazing. All right, we're going to take a little break here. We're going to come back and talk about this year's Montreal Canadiens team, what they got going for them, whether they can go all the way, and why I think my Boston Bruins are going to stop them. We'll be right back on the Sports Rapport. And welcome back to the Sports Rapport. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. I'm here with Jean Robillard, who worked for more than 20 years as a communications department person for the Montreal Canadiens, the most storied franchise of all time in hockey. And Mark Davis, Montreal superfan, is with us as well. We are talking about the upcoming Stanley Cup playoffs, which are about to start. It's amazing, guys. We don't even know yet who's definitely playing who. There's a couple games left for some of these teams.
For the Habs, one game.
Yeah. Now
in Philly tomorrow.
In Philly tomorrow.
Yeah.
If the season did end today, it looks like Montreal would be playing the Tampa Bay Lightning. So let me get from both of you, how do you feel they would stack up against the Lightning in a 7-game series? Mark, let me start with you.
2 or 3 months ago, I would have been really worried and said Tampa is the favorite in that series. I think perhaps a neutral observer would have Tampa as a slight favorite right now, but I think they match up very well. They played last week. Mitch, it was a playoff style game. It was frankly, it was a hockey war out there. The Habs have beaten Tampa Bay twice now. We've seen a level of maturation, I think, from the Habs the past couple months, excuse me. They're a young team. They're an ascending team. They are becoming more disciplined. They are sort of doing that final adjustment of becoming more defensively responsible. Their goaltending situation, what had been shaky for a while, has really stabilized, and they seem to be playing more of a playoff style game. Tampa's fantastic. I think it would be a great series, but the Habs absolutely would have a chance in that.
Who is considered the number one goalie right now for Montreal, Jean? Do you think, is it Fowler or is it?
This year is Dobesh. Jakob Dobesh took the lead, but I'm pretty sure that Fowler in the following years will be there. But what's really interesting about that playoff round is, could you imagine Martin St-Louis will go in Tampa Bay? He will play against his former coach, and his number is retired.
He won his Stanley Cup with the Lightning.
Yeah, in 2004, and it was his former coach. And if you remember the last game, I totally agree with him that, for me, my perception that we could beat them, not maybe easily, but the way that they went after Lane Hudson, and when they saw that Josh Anderson went after Nikita Kucherov, and it was off. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same thing in that round. If they play against each other, I think it's going to be really something. But especially when they take the lead on that game last Thursday in Montreal, you saw John Cooper says, "Pow!" Like, we got you, and then we won the game. So, and you saw after the game, Marty was looking at John Cooper when he left. So I said, the playoffs could start right now.
It could be totally intense.
Oh,
You could tell those teams were anticipating playing each other in the first round and trying to send each other a message, and the Habs were not backing down, which was sort of the last thing I think we needed to see from them.
We talk about the job that Martin St-Louis has done, which has been phenomenal in Montreal. He's got this team back where they're excited about it. Of course, Mark, Martin St-Louis played his college hockey at UVM. Huge star. So there's that Vermont connection there. You were telling me that you have seen more than your fair share of Habs fans around our lovely state of Vermont. Is this really true?
Anecdotally, here's what I have for you. So I will concede that there are more Bruins fans here than Habs fans. I will give you that.
So
I think that split is closer than people might realize. So I don't rock the sweater unless I'm at the Bell Center or here on your set, but I have like a hat I wear all the time. There's not a week that goes by out in the world that someone sees me wearing that hat and doesn't want to pull me aside and talk about the Habs. Like, I've had some crazy encounters, people in like a parking lot at an arcade with my kid, at Walgreens. There is this culture here. There is a real fan base here. And for whatever reason, I think it maybe goes a little underground, maybe because it's been not the greatest couple decades. But you can feel the excitement now. It's a young team on the rise. I think sort of the ghosts in that history that he's talking about are rising up. And yeah, there's a real Habs contingent in Vermont, and they love talking about about the team.
Yeah.
I think with the following years to come, they will be higher than that. I think I'm not saying that it's going to be 50-50, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be higher because I'm pretty sure that within the next 3 to 5 years, the Montreal Canadiens will win a 25th Stanley Cup. I'm pretty sure, if not more.
Boy, I'm sure hoping you're wrong about that. We're going to find out. I will caution both of you that while I agree with both of you, actually, that if I had to pick between Montreal and Tampa in this upcoming series, if they play each other, I would pick the Canadiens. I think they are peaking at just the right time. However, I will caution and remind you both that when it does come to the goaltending, Tampa Bay has quite possibly the best goaltender on the planet right now. Vasilevsky is unbelievable when he's on his game, which is kind of why I don't want the Bruins to open against Tampa Bay.
And goalie could make all the difference for the Bruins this year. Jeremy Swayman, what a season he had.
He's having a great bounce back year.
I saw his statistics. He's among the top. I don't know the percentage I'm surprised that they're in the playoff. Seriously.
As am I.
Because I thought they would be on rebuild because they will have 2 to 3 first pick in maybe next year they have 3 if they get the one of Toronto. So
Mitch hasn't been confident, a little behind the scenes. I was reassuring Mitch last week that the Bruins were definitely in the playoffs. He was a little shaky. I'm like, no, they're absolutely going in.
I had to wait to see it.
What do you make of the Bruins' chances in the playoffs?
They're probably gone in the first round, if I'm being honest. But here's the thing. I'm totally happy because here's why. Like you said, they were not expected to do it this year. As Jean was saying, they were in a rebuild year. I have to give credit to GM Don Sweeney, who I've complained about a lot in the past, but he made some very shrewd trades before the end of last year. The trade where he fleeced with the Toronto Maple Leafs, people are still talking about that. They sent a good defenseman, Brandon Carlo, to Toronto because they thought that's the last piece they needed to get over the top. You know, he gets hurt a lot, whatever. He's good. But we got Fraser Minton in return, one of their top prospects, and all he did this year was crack the top roster. He's got 17 goals as a rookie. He's been phenomenal. And as you said, John, we may still also, from that Brandon Carlo trade, possibly get Toronto's top pick if it doesn't land in the first 5.
Could you imagine if both of us win the first round, we may meet each other?
Is that how it might? See, that would be. Can you imagine?
Awesome. We'll
the
have
thrills,
to talk again.
The excitement, no question.
That would
be the
measure
best.
On the Richter scale. I can't imagine. I got to tell you, I hate saying this. I am more optimistic about the Bruins' chances than you are, and it's for the reason he mentioned, which is Jeremy Swayman. He could steal a series for you all if he is on his game. He's absolutely one of the best goalies in the league, and sometimes those teams that get in. Nothing to lose, no huge expectations. They've got a really good goalie. That's a formula we've seen work in the NHL before. I think you might have a better chance than you even think.
I also think it's more true in hockey than any other major sport that the playoffs, once you get in, it really becomes, it kind of evens out. You know, you can expect a great baseball team to beat a lower one. And, you know, still, the top teams are the top teams. The Sabres are real good this year. Obviously, out west, Colorado's incredible. But I do think once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen.
That's right.
Other players I want to quickly mention for the Bruins that are, of course, critical to their success, David Pastrnak, who is a magician, almost 100 points, still playing great hockey. And here's an X factor. I don't know if he'll actually see Morgan Geekie, who's actually picked up his game now, which is great because he went on a huge goal-scoring drought, but then he had a hat trick the other night, scored again. James Higgins, the Bruins draft pick, the rookie from last year, he dropped to number 7. Nobody thought he would drop that far. Bruins pick him up. Now, he played his very first NHL game just last night against Columbus, got a secondary assist for his first ever NHL point. I don't know if Marco Sturm, the Bruins coach, will play him in the playoffs or not. But if they decide to roll the dice, it's happened before in 2011 when the Bruins won the Cup with Tyler Seguin. Throw the rookie in there, and if he makes a difference, who knows? The kid's got talent.
Oh yeah, when it's because you bring new energy in the team, man. They've been together all year long, and when you bring a new fresh young player like that who wants to win absolutely and wants to make a difference, make a name for himself, I think it's really something. It's going to be really interesting. And
All right.
I have a memory about. For me, I find that the Bruins are lucky because they have the president Cam Neely, Mr. Cam Neely. For me, he's got an aura. And I remember one time I arrived in the journalist room, and he was already there with Don Sweeney. And when he saw me from afar, he says to Don Sweeney, "Just a moment." He came to me, he shook my hand. And we talked for minutes, and he was such a gentleman. And my colleagues look at me and says, "Yeah, but he's like that. He's Mr. Bruins for me, and he's got an aura around him and he's a gentleman. I like
glad
the
to hear that,
gentleman.
too.
I really love it. So I just wanted to bring it to you because you're a Bruins
Appreciate
fan,
that.
but he's really something.
Neely is one of my favorites, one of the great power forwards of all time.
That's right.
Very, very quickly, just one word answer. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup this year?
The Habs, the Montreal Canadiens, surprised. They will shock the hockey world. I cannot go against them.
Oh, good. I get to use
the
this.
Avalanche.
Good. I was waiting to
The
use that.
Avalanche are the favorites, but in 1986, 1999, and 1993, we were not favorite, and we won the cup. If the goalie make the difference,
Sometimes it comes down to that.
Yeah.
Mark Davis, who do you got?
I don't want to pick against the Habs if you're going to boo me. If I have to go with someone else, I agree. It's Colorado Avalanche. It's a chalk pick. They've got a relatively easy path, I think, out of the West if they can get through the second round. Best team in the league all year, but I think it's wide open.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and this is going to sound crazy. I actually think the Canadiens are going to win the Stanley Cup this year. No, I do. And I know I don't like saying that. I don't want to say it.
Yeah.
I just feel like they've got so much momentum right now. And the playoff mystique of that team. When they get in the playoffs, something happens.
Yeah, this
and
year there's a magic around the team.
Just wonder.
It's really something.
If this happens, can you use your connections and get a Stanley Cup down in Church Street in Burlington? We've got fans here. Bring it on down.
What I will do, I will text Éric Perrin, former Martin St. Louis teammate,
All right.
and we'll try to arrange that.
It's a good thing we've got to move on from that. I want to say one more thing before we head out here, and I'm totally shifting gears here because I want to talk baseball very quickly.
Okay.
The Montreal Expos, remember that team?
Yeah,
Yeah, I want them back.
me too.
I want them back in Montreal.
My grandfather told me once when I was hired by the Montreal Canadiens, he said to me at Christmas the first year, he said, "You may be a hockey guy, but you have baseball DNA." And it's true because my grandfather's mother was the sister of the grandmother of Claude Raymond, the pitcher of the Expos. So I met him once, and I said, "What it makes us?" He says, "We're little cousin." That's what he said. So yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's strange, huh?
Yeah, that is a little strange.
Yeah.
I do. The excitement around that team in 1994, which is one of the saddest stories. There's a great documentary out there now called "Who Killed the Montreal Expos," and that team looked like it was going to go on and win the World Series that year. They had the fantastic Hall of Famer Andre Dawson, Pedro Martinez pitching, Gary Carter, one of the great catchers of all time, and then of course the baseball strike happens and they can't go. But Mark, you know what it would be like. Wouldn't it be great to bring back the Expos, and have them in the American League East? They were a National League team before they left. Yeah.
Perfect rivalries. Mitch, I got to say, pre-pandemic years, the Expos, they were hosting some Toronto Blue Jays spring training games in the old Expo Stadium to try to get momentum to bring MLB back. I went to a couple of those games. They sold them out, and that place was incredibly loud. They put 40, 50,000 people for a meaningless spring training game just to show Montreal's passion for baseball. Yeah. It's still there. Yeah. It would be so much fun to be able to go watch Major League in Montreal.
There's a strong rumor right now that there's a guy who was there to the last game. I was there also in 2004, and a guy who's have the means, financial means, is interested to bring back the Expos. So,
well, that's what you need, though. You need either of those because the game has changed, and obviously a lot of these teams now are owned by just huge corporations, and the money is ridiculous. You do need to have somebody who's got that money and the couch cushions they can pull out and bring them here.
Would you ditch the Red Sox for the Expos if they came back?
I wouldn't ditch them, Mark Davis, but it would be so great to have. Think about just the commerce, the interest between a Red Sox Expos game. People coming up. There'd be money going back both ways on
And
that.
the Yankees also in Montreal.
The Yankees too,
And
I
the
got
Blue Jays.
perfect guy to throw out the first pitch for the return of the Montreal Expos. That would be Bill Lee, who of course pitched for the Expos
Spaceman,
back in the day. Spaceman could throw out the first pitch.
Yeah.
I think it would be incredible. And here's the thing: all you got to do is take the Tampa Bay Rays and get rid of them.
Yes.
I mean, look, if Tampa Bay Rays fans, any that might be watching or listening, I understand. They don't even sell out the Trop, which is one of the worst places to play baseball, when they're in the playoffs. They can't even sell out that place when Tampa Bay's in the playoffs. And you were saying, Mark, look at the interest in just the exhibition for a Montreal Expos game.
It was one of the most electric baseball atmospheres I've ever seen.
Especially the first one.
Yeah. I mean, there was that proposal at one point to split Tampa in two and have them be half Tampa, half Montreal. That was at least
I don't think I heard about that. Was that really a serious thing?
It didn't go anywhere, but it was floated at one point. Yes. Hockey and baseball just overlap so beautifully too. You got to have that summer sport. I will sign this petition. Forget my journalistic integrity. Let's make it happen.
I super appreciate that.
I like that. When there were rumors a few years ago, and I was still working for the Habs, a journalist told me, you see, right there, that's supposed to be the new stadium of the Expos. So I would have been able to see from the press room the game of the Expos downtown. So.
Well,
give up hope.
You guys, we'll all looking through our couch cushions, pull out there. Maybe together, the three of us will find the money. $250 million. Yeah, no problem at all. We'll make it happen. Gentlemen, this has been such a fantastic discussion. Jean Robillard, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming over here to our neck of the woods to give us your institutional knowledge of this incredible franchise. I'm not going to wish your team best of luck in the playoffs, but
magic.
Let's hope for some great hockey coming up in the playoffs. Mark Davis, thank you so much for being here as well
pleasure.
today. Really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning into the Sports Report. If you missed any of today's show, you can find it on our YouTube channel. You can also catch the show on Vermont Public Radio on Monday nights at 8 o'clock, and it's available wherever you get your podcasts. Find out more about the show and how to get in touch with us at vermontpublic.org/sports. The Sports Report is a production of Vermont Public, produced by Nathaniel Wilson, with technical director Mike Dunn, Joey Palumbo on graphics, David Littlefield on camera, and video production assistance from Dave Rice and Brian Stevenson. Our audio engineer is Peter Engish. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, your host for this program that's all about the world of sports in Vermont and beyond. I hope you'll join us next week for the Sports Report. Guys, thank you so much.